let's look at this warm-up problem, and this is one of the ways you could use this percent proportion. They won't always be as easy as what we were doing yesterday on the skills practice, like what number is 70% of 250. Sometimes we've got to use this percent proportion in an application. And so this is an example of the kind of problem you could see. The selling price of a house dropped from $250,000 to $210,000 over a period of 5 years. Part A, by what percent did the selling price decrease? Part B, explain how you found your answer. So there's really two different ways to solve this, but it's a two-step problem any way you want to solve it. So I know that I'm going to use the percent proportion because I need to find the percent it decreased. So it's a part over a whole with the percent proportion. Right? And so we're looking for the percent. So what part do I know is going to be blank in this percent proportion? What do I know is going to be blank? Camden? The percent, where does it go? Above the 100. So this part has to be blank. So I need a part over a whole. And so I'm looking, I want to know what percent the selling price decreased. The amount that was taken off. Not the amount that I paid, but the amount taken off. So what's the whole selling price of the house? Is it the $210,000? Is it the $250,000? Or is it the 5? It's the $250,000. What number up there is too much information? Do I not need to use? There's a number up there that I've seen a couple people try to use, but I don't think it's part of the math problem. What do you think? The 5. I'm not going to use the 5. Here it's just saying how much did it drop over a certain period of time. But does the 5 really matter in this problem? It does not. EJ, I would like you to pay attention to this conversation. Thank you. So I'm not going to even use the 5 years. That doesn't help me solve the math at all. That's just giving me a frame of reference. So we said the $250,000 is the whole. So what do you think goes in the numerator? The $210,000. But what does the $210,000 really represent? Does it represent the decrease, or does it represent the amount paid? The amount paid. This is the amount paid. So over here, if these two things really are equivalent, if $250,000 is the whole, and the whole is equivalent to 100%, when I use this equal sign, that really means these two things are equal in this proportional problem. So, if the $250,000 really equals 100%, the whole thing, if this is the amount I paid, then this over here will be the what? The percent you paid. Not the percent discount, but the percent you paid. How do I solve this problem? Cross multiply 100 times 210,000. I'm going to get 210, 3 more zeros. And then mental math tells me I'm going to pick up those 2 zeros. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 21 million. Am I done? No. Cross multiply this way, I would get 21 million. And so what's the math I do there? Divide it by 250,000. What do I get? 84. So we paid 84%. Is that my answer? No, because it wants to know the percent of the decrease, not the percent that we paid. So there's one more step. A lot of you got this far, and I said, well, you're part of the way there. You've got to think about it a little bit more. So does anybody know what the next step is? No? So the whole thing is 100%. If we paid 84%, then the discount was what's missing between the two. So we can now take 100%, subtract 84% that we paid, and what's going to be left? The discount, which is 16%. That word says discount. So if this was the method I used, then the next thing I do would be, in B, I would explain that I found the percent that I paid using the percent proportion, which was 84%, and then I would explain that I knew that the whole thing was 100%, and if I paid 84%, I have to subtract, and the difference, it was discounted, 16%. You would have to explain that in B. Is there another way to solve this problem? I like to solve this problem by finding the amount of the discount first. How could I do that? If I knew that the house started at $250,000 and it decreased to $210,000, what's the amount of the decrease? How could I find it? Anyone? Raleigh? How could I find how much it decreased, the amount of decrease? How much money did I save if I bought it when it was on sale from $250,000 to $210,000? How much money did I save? Like, ooh, that saved me a bunch of money. How much money is it? How much? $40,000. How did you figure that out? So we subtract, right? If it starts at $250,000, so this was method number 1. Over here is going to be method number 2. Either of these ways work. This is the way I would prefer to do it. I take away $210,000. So that means I saved, or it decreased. It decreased $40,000. Now I know the amount of decrease, so now I can find the percent decrease. So I'm still going to use the percent proportion. Over 100, I'm still looking for the percent it decreased. The whole amount is still $250,000. But if I want the percent decrease, then I need the amount of the decrease. And we said the amount of the decrease is $40,000. Right? Because again, if this equal sign really means these two things are equal, and if the whole amount, if the house started at $250,000, that's 100% of the selling price. If I want to know the percent decrease, then I need to have the amount that it decreased. Now, can I just cross multiply? 100 times 40,000. So 40, 1, 2, 3. Pick up those two zeros. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And so then 4 million divided by 250,000. What do I get? 16%. So either method works to get me 16%, Here I get 16%. And in this method, I get 16%. And did I really have to do kind of the same math? Percent proportion, subtract and subtract. So really there's two different ways you can think about it. But you had to know up here you were looking at the percent you paid, and then know that you have to subtract that out of the whole, which is 100%. That leaves you 16%. Or here, you had to find the amount that the house decreased, and then you could find the percent it decreased. Whichever method you want to use works, but this is how you would solve a two-step problem like this with the percent proportion. Are there any questions? So your next step would be to pick one of these ways and explain it. And that's what you need to do now. And then after you pick one of the two ways, hopefully you have both methods written down. And then pick one way to explain it. If you're like me, you might be out of room. So I might draw my arrow up here to the top. And then I might say part B. And then I might explain part B up there. But you have got to do that next step now. Is there anybody that's unsure of how to explain it? No? Okay. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to finish part B on your own. Hopefully you've got one of these two ways written down. Let's look at our agenda for today. You've got to finish the skills practice from yesterday if you have not finished that. All the problems front and back, turn it into a teacher. If you have to take the final exam, you will get a study guide, and that's what you need to work on. So skills practice, and then if you have to take the final exam, you're getting a study guide, and if you have to take the final exam after the skills practice, you're working on your study guide. If you don't have to take the final exam, then you can work on iExcel. If you're done with all your iExcel, you can work on iReady. And then the people that need to take the final exam, there will be a video review of the study guide tomorrow in class. And if you have to take the final exam, that study guide is for a grade. It should be an easy 100 for you. If you're not sure if you need to complete it, I will let you know. Questions about today and what it is you need to be doing? Okay, so work on your explanation and show a teacher, and then you can move on to your next step.